All right, so cybersecurity. It's something that's on everyone's minds these days,
Mhm.
especially, if you're a smaller business and you're thinking about working with like some of the big players out there, like,
Mhm.
Saudi Aramco, for example. I mean, those contracts, those can be a real game changer. But there's a catch. There's cybersecurity standards.
Yeah.
We're talking SCCS 002 here. Those are tough. I mean, really tough.
Oh, yeah. Failing to meet those standards that could, well, not just missing out on those big contracts, but even facing some pretty hefty fine.
Right, exactly. So what if there was a shortcut, some
Mm.
sort of secret passage through this cybersecurity maze?
A shortcut, huh?
Well, that's what we're here to find out. We've got our hands on this blog post. It's titled How CCC for SMB Simplifies SACS 002 Standards. It was published just last month by NHR Tuchel,
Yeah.
and they're offering this service. They claim it's like a one-stop shop for SES 002 compliance.
Interesting.
But is it the real deal,
Yeah.
or is it just hype? That's what we're going to unpack together today.
Well, I think the first thing to understand is this: achieving SCS 002 compliance. It's not just about checking boxes, right? We're talking about building a really robust cybersecurity foundation. And that can be pretty daunting for any business,
Yeah.
especially a smaller one.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like trying to bake a cake, run a marathon, and build a fortress all at the same time. And that's where this CCC for SMB thing comes in. It's like they're saying, hey, you focus on the cake and the marathon, we'll take care of the fortress.
Exactly. It's a bundled solution, covers everything: hardware, software, training, documentation.
All designed to meet those Aramco standards.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break it down for me. What are the stages?
All right, so they break it down to 3 stages: onboard, execute, and deliver.
Okay, I like it. Walk me through those.
Sure. So the onboard phase, that's all about, getting to know you, getting to know your business. They gather all your company information, assign a dedicated auditor to your case, share the necessary documentation. And this is critical. They start the training process for your team.
Oh, interesting. So right from the get-go, you're not just sort of thrown in the deep end. You've got a guide, someone holding your hand through this whole process. I can see how that would be reassuring, for a business owner,
Yeah,
especially one who's maybe feeling a little lost in the cybersecurity world.
absolutely. Then you move on to the execute stage. That's where things get a little more hands-on. They deploy the necessary software and hardware, start gathering evidence for compliance. There's regular communication with your auditor, and they submit reports to demonstrate, that you're on track to meet those SACS 002 standards.
So they're not just giving you the tools, they're actively working with you to make sure you're using them correctly
Hmm.
and actually achieving compliance. Okay, I like that, but what happens at the end? What's the deliver stage all about?
That's where it all comes together. They hand over the complete project report, user credentials, all the hardware. It's like a turnkey cybersecurity solution.
Wow, so it really is. They're really trying to make this as smooth and painless as possible. I mean, for a busy business owner, time is money. And stress. Well, stress is stressful.
Absolutely. And the blog post, it really emphasizes that. The expert support you get throughout the process. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by cybersecurity, this could be a lifeline.
Yeah, that makes sense. But let's dig into the specifics a little bit here.
Yeah.
What does this package actually include? It's one thing to, promise the world, but what are they actually giving you? What's in the box, so to speak?
Right. So they break it down into 3 main categories: hardware, software, security training, and policy, procedure, and forms. Let's start with the hardware and software. They provide an Intel Core i5 processor, 8 GB of RAM, a 512 GB SSD, Windows 11 Pro Bitdefender endpoint security.
Hold on. That sounds like a seriously powerful machine.
It is. They're making sure you have a system that can handle all that security software without slowing you down. And they don't stop there. They also include some essential subscription services like Exchange Online Plan 1 and Bitdefender Gravity Zone.
Okay, so they're covering both the physical hardware and the essential software tools that you need for a really robust cybersecurity posture. What about training? What does that involve?
So the security training, it focuses on equipping your team to be that first line of defense. It covers common cybersecurity threats like social engineering, phishing emails, and acceptable use policies.
That's smart. I mean,
Yeah.
technology is crucial. We all know that. But human error, that's still a major factor in so many cybersecurity breaches. Having a well-trained team can really make all the difference.
Absolutely. And finally, they provide pre-prepared documentation that meets all the Aramco SACS 002 requirements, covering policies, procedures, and forms.
Wait, pre-prepared documentation. That sounds almost too good to be true. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's like they've given you the cheat sheet for cybersecurity. They've already done all that heavy lifting of creating the policies, so you don't have to start from scratch.
Wow. I bet that saves businesses so much time.
Yeah.
Headaches. Especially those smaller companies, right? The ones that don't have, like, dedicated cybersecurity personnel.
Exactly. But, we have to ask, does all this stuff, does it actually align with the specific requirements of SCSES 0002?
Right. Does it actually hold up to Aramco standards?
Well, let's look at the evidence. The blog post highlights several key areas where the CCC for SMB directly tackles those SCCS 002 requirements. For example, strong password protection measures. Those are fundamental to any cybersecurity framework.
Yeah. We've all heard those stories about weak passwords leading to data breaches. It's like leaving the front door to your business wide open.
Exactly. And they don't just stop at password complexity. They also include multi-factor authentication, which adds that extra layer of security and makes it much harder for those unauthorized users to access sensitive data.
So it's like a double lock on the door. You need the right password. And they do that second form of verification, like a code from your phone or something.
Precisely. And they also address the need for those regular software updates and operating system updates to make sure that you always have the latest security patches and vulnerability fixes.
It's like getting your cybersecurity vaccines, right? Got to stay up to date to keep those nasty bugs away. What else? What else stood out to you?
Well, their emphasis on incident response plans, that really impressed me because this is something that a lot of businesses, particularly the smaller ones, tend to overlook.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the prevention side of things.
Yeah.
And forget about what happens if something does slip through the cracks.
Exactly. But SACS 002, it requires a clear plan of action for responding to those cybersecurity incidents. And CCC for SMB, they help you develop one.
That's huge. I mean, having that predefined plan in place, it can make all the difference in minimizing the damage if there is a breach. It's like having a fire escape route. You hope you never need to use it, but if you do, you're incredibly grateful that you planned ahead.
That's a great analogy. And it's clear that CCC for SMB, they're not just throwing a bunch of tools at the problem. They've really carefully designed this service to address those specific requirements of SACS 002.
Okay, so if I'm an SMB owner listening to this, I'm probably thinking, okay, what's in it for me? What are the actual benefits of going down this route?
That's a great question. And the blog post, it actually highlights a few potential benefits for SMBs. One of the biggest is the ability to focus on what you do best, growing your business and innovating. I mean, cybersecurity is essential. We all know that. But it can be a huge distraction, especially for those smaller teams with limited resources.
It's like trying to watch out for wolves while you're also trying to, like, herd your sheep. It's exhausting. It takes you away from what really matters.
Right. But by outsourcing your cybersecurity to a service like this, you're freeing up your time and energy to focus on those things that you're good at, developing your products, serving your customers, scaling your business, and you get peace of mind knowing that the experts are handling your cybersecurity.
Of course, for a lot of ambitious SMBs out there, the big goal is to land those lucrative contracts with companies like Aramco and achieving SACS 002 compliance. Well, that's often a prerequisite, right? So this service could be a real game changer.
It's like Runskit getting that golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. You're suddenly in a whole different league competing for those contracts and partnerships that were previously out of reach.
Exactly. And beyond those kind of strategic benefits, there's also that fundamental importance of protecting your assets. I mean, cyber attacks are becoming more and more common, more and more sophisticated. And they can really cripple a small business.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Data breaches, financial losses, reputational damage. It's a nightmare scenario for any business owner. But by investing in robust cybersecurity, you're not just taking boxes for compliance. You're safeguarding your company, your employees, your customers from those potentially devastating consequences.
You're protecting everything you've worked so hard to build.
Exactly. The blog post actually makes a great analogy. They compare the CCC for SMB service to having a guide through a complex maze.
Oh, I like this. Explain it.
All right, so imagine you're in this giant maze. Dead ends everywhere. You have no idea which way to go. You could wander around for ages, getting frustrated. Or even worse, you stumble into a trap.
I can already feel my anxiety levels rising just thinking about it.
Right. But now imagine you have this guide who knows the maze inside and out. They can lead you down the right path, help you avoid those costly mistakes, and reach your destination faster.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. So CCC for SMB is the guide. And SACS 002 compliance is the destination.
Exact.
They're helping you navigate this complex world of cybersecurity, reach your goal without getting lost.
Yeah.
Or making those critical errors along the way.
Exactly. And that's a valuable service, especially for businesses that might not have that internal expertise to navigate this landscape on their own.
It's like having a cybersecurity Sherpa,
Yeah,
guiding you up that treacherous mountain of compliance.
I like that. That's a good one. But, as with any major decision, it's important to weigh the benefits against the costs and consider whether it's the right fit for your specific needs. I mean, there's no one-size-fits-all solution in cybersecurity.
You're right. Every business has its own unique circumstances and priorities. So,
What are some of the factors that SMB owners should be considering when they're evaluating a service like this? I mean, for me, the big one is cost. The blog post keeps saying cost effective, but they never actually give you any hard numbers. What are we really looking at here?
yeah, that's a good point. I mean, cost effective, it's relative, right?
Yeah.
What might be a drop in the bucket for one business could be a huge expense for another. You really need to get a clear picture of all the costs involved, upfront fees, any ongoing subscription costs for software or support services.
Yeah, cybersecurity, it's not a one-time expense. It's an ongoing commitment.
Absolutely. And beyond just the financial side of things, there's the question of control. I mean, when you outsource your cybersecurity, you're essentially handing over the keys to your kingdom, right? Right.
So you need to be absolutely sure that you trust the people who are guarding the castle.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So what should SMB owners be looking for in a cybersecurity provider?
Well, thorough vetting is key. I mean,
Very.
really dig into their security practices, look for independent audits and certifications, and check for a proven track record. Do they have a history of successful compliance implementations? How do they respond to incidents? Those are all critical questions.
Yeah, it's like hiring a bodyguard, right? You want someone with experience, a solid reputation, and someone who's not going to disappear when things get tough.
Exactly. And you also need to consider your own comfort level. I mean, some businesses might be perfectly happy handing over complete control, while others might want to maintain more in-house oversight.
Right. I imagine that probably depends a lot on the size of the business and the level of internal expertise that they already have.
Absolutely. And there's always the option of building that cybersecurity expertise in-house. Now, that can be a more expensive and time-consuming route initially, but it can offer you greater control and flexibility in the long run.
So it's a classic trade-off. Convenience and expertise versus cost and control.
Exactly. And the right answer, well, it's going to be different for every business.
Right. Well, this has been a really insightful deep dive. We've seen how the CCC for SMB service offers this potentially streamlined path to SACS 002 compliance, a way for smaller businesses to break into the big leagues and work with giants like Aramco.
Absolutely. And I think we've also learned that achieving compliance, it's not just about checking those boxes. It's about building a strong foundation to protect your business, your employees, and your customers.
Here's the million-dollar question for you, our listener. Would you trust a third party with your cybersecurity? Or would you prefer to build that expertise in-house? What are the factors that would sway your decision?
It's a tough choice. No easy answers, but hopefully. This deep dive has given you the knowledge and insights that you need to make the best decision for your business.
Absolutely. And if you're interested in learning more about CCC for SMB and seeing if it's the right fit for you, we encourage you to visit NHR Alemtithal's website. They've got a ton of information there about their services.
And until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay secure.